currently dealing with and what we see happen. We recently just got past HB 267. Now, I don't know if many of you knew this, but one of the items was you could not donate a percentage of your commission to a nonprofit. It means that if at closing you wanted the brokers, you give 10% of your closings to a nonprofit of your choice. Before, they couldn't do it. They had to pay you, then you could do something separately. But now you can actively advertise at 10% of my commission, or whatever percentage can go towards a nonprofit, a 501c3, and get credit for that. So we resolved that issue. Second, we also resolved an issue which will allow the real estate commission to assign an administrator to a brokerage when they're having problems with their trust account. I don't know if you're aware of this, but up until, well, last week, if a broker, and there was just one sole broker, was stealing funds from the trust fund, there was no, that's it. I'm sorry, but that individual is in charge of those trust accounts, and, well, the fox gets to watch the hen house, so to speak. Well, we also enacted legislation that allowed the real estate commission to come in, and in cases where there's blatant discrepancies or blatant issues where people's money were being stolen, the real estate commission could assign an administrator to oversee trust accounts, which you may not think is a major issue unless you had problems with clients and monies and trust account, and you were at like a smaller brokerage. And this is like a specific case, I won't name names, but a smaller brokerage, in Alaska, where funds were being stolen and they knew it. Only problem was there was no system in place to make sure that those funds were getting properly handled. Additionally, we did SB 122, which is an act research to examination of titles. Mainly, I don't know if you're aware of this, but have you guys ever heard of, what's the word of the fee? It's basically transfer fees. Ever heard of a transfer fee on a title? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we made it illegal in Alaska. Okay, and this is another bill that we pushed. You guys may not have known this, but every once in a while, a land developer will either claim out or state or purchase land from the state, and they will write into the covenants that any time that land is sold, they get paid a fee. Up to 5 times, okay? So imagine that your seller goes to sell a property, they've owned it for 15 years, but maybe the owner, not even the previous owner, but the owner before that had written into the covenants, anytime the property's transferred, he gets a dime. Or maybe it's a percentage of the sale. Well, we made that illegal. Listen, you get a one-time transfer fee. When you sell your property, you relinquish all your rights. You can't keep beating up people down the line. So it's actually legal in 41 other states. So we made sure that was also here. And that's to prevent on hidden fees and hidden expenses of trying to sell your own property.
Can't that be, in some states, isn't that percentage-based as well?
Yes.
So that it escalates?
Oh yeah, well that was the intention.
It's usually percentage-based, not a flat fee. Yeah.
Yeah, so imagine that surprise when they go to run the title court and you find out that you got to pay a percentage of your sale to some guy who owned it 3 owners ago, right? So finally also, this is a big one. This is what a lot of you didn't realize and what was happening, is there was an SB 157, and that was an issue. This was a bill brought by the insurance companies. Now, when you're in default on your mortgage or not paying your utilities, your mortgage company has the right to cancel your mortgage insurance and your property insurance, right? They have rights already. Where they were looking to expand their rights to cancel your property insurance, if they deemed the property vacant for an undetermined amount of time, okay? We saw specific cases of this where individuals were PCS'd out from the military, they were making their mortgage payments, they were making their utility payments, maybe even had somebody checking on the house, but the insurance said, you know what, nobody's looking there, it was vacant to me, cancel their insurance. Okay, that's huge, okay? When they cancel their insurance and they then they have to get a new policy, the new policy can be 6-7 times what their original homeowner's policy was, driving these people into foreclosure. Additional items that would be is, let's say you went to the hospital, let's say you got hurt, you're in the hospital. Your house may look vacant, but you're making your utility payments, you're making your mortgage payments, but you can't occupy it for a couple months because maybe you're long-term care. Insurance companies wanted the right, despite all those safeguards, to cancel your mortgage insurance because it's deemed vacant.
There's a lot of snowbirds up here too.
Yeah, and well, you know, the legislators were like, well, and I said, well, hold on a second. How long are you in Juneau? Your house is vacant. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, we don't want that one. That's basically how that conversation went.
That one was a fight though. The insurance company showed up.
Insurance companies really wanted to be able, and basically, you know, and you understand that we respect the safeguards between what insurance companies are trying to do to protect themselves and make sure that they're not getting abused, and making sure there's reasonable expectations of a property owner, just simply because they're gone for a prolonged period of time. Dave?
What was their point? What was their argument?
Their argument was basically, most of their cases were, hey, listen, somebody moves out, the house is either going to be short sold or it's going to fall, they're trying to sell it, we want to be able to cancel it. And our argument was, well, wait a second, if they're behind on their mortgage payments, they're in default, or the property is abandoned, you already have the right to do that. So I'm really confused on what your argument is, because you already have the right to do that under the current statute. The only thing you don't have the right to do, that this is allowing you, is if someone's current on their mortgage payments, making utility bills, and you just deem it abandoned under an unqualified, unstipulated criteria, you know, then no, because that's too ambiguous. It's the unintended consequences.
Too much power in their hands.
So understand, again, this is what, you know, this is actually my biggest thing with the Board of Realtors, is really our legislative action of what we do. All the other stuff that they do, and others to get their hands in, you know, this big, you know, is important, but this is the big part. Finally, the accounting practices of the division corporate, this is where we made a huge bet. Now, you guys knew that last year they were proposing a 149% increase on your licensing dues, right? But the Board of Realtors structured and got and leaned on our representatives and our senators, and we were able to get some hearing time downtown, which we all showed up in full force. And we got that beat back to about a 30% increase. But here's the deal. Even that 30% increase we're not happy with, because the Department of Licensing and professional licensing right now has no accountability on their accounting, right? They don't have to disclose to the Real Estate Commission what they're spending commission dollars on or what they're investigating. It's none of your business, but we have the hundreds of thousands in investigatory costs, but I'm not going to tell you what they are. So we said, listen, this is ridiculous. There's no reason that the Real Estate Commission shouldn't be overseeing the Department of Licensing if they're dictating what our fees should be. Basically what this comes down to is to make sure that you understand that we're watching the dollars the state is spending. I mean, if they're going to charge us licensing fees, and they're going to say their investigation costs are high, et cetera, great, show me the books. But you can't say they're high, but I'm not going to show you the books and explain it to you, just pay it. So then leaning on them. And I will tell you the Department of Licensing is in hot water right now. Every one of the legislators we met with completely recognized that fact.
So that's an ongoing, I'm sorry to interrupt, that's an ongoing discussion right now between.
Oh yeah, leaning on the
Juno
Department of
and-
Licensing.
okay.
And really the Department of Licensing was unprepared for the turnout of realtors. Our organization went together. They were like, I don't know what you guys wear this, but how much does it cost? What is the state license this year? $550. $550, okay. Do you know how much it costs to be a hairdresser? To be an esthetician?
It's like 165 every 2 years.
165 every 2 years, but then there's plus fees. Okay, and there's additional charges in licensing. For estheticians, you got to have a state. Do you have an esthetician's license?
I have both.
Okay, there's a new state esthetician's license out there. What is the esthetician organization? From what I saw in the accumulation of fees, it was closer to $1,000.
I will tell you that if you're a mechanical engineer, that can actually affect whether or not people, you know, are healthy or die, or, you know, buildings engineers, they pay way less than we do in fees. They can meet with a contractor, you know, someone who's bringing like a water heater to, you know, and learn about it, and that counts as hours. I mean, they're so much less regulated than we are.
Well, I guess I have to take a look at that. Understand that there's very few industries that you can get into for the $550 plus Board of Realtors dues and make $500,000 a year within a pretty short period of time. Plus, you're dealing with what I would say would be pretty large transfers of funds. Okay, there's some due diligence on your part. That said, there was a chart they provided, I don't have that with me, that showed the cost of other licensing fees and business opportunity costs, and actually real estate is fairly low. When you consider that, I mean, even to do a hot dog stand, you know, you gotta have a business license, you gotta go through the FDA, and you gotta buy a taco wagon, you gotta do all that. We actually have it pretty good as realtors.
Isn't it a bit more relevant case to say, what's Washington paying, what's Idaho paying, what's Oregon paying for their license fees? Isn't that
Yeah,
more
they're
relevant?
a lot less. Well, their title insurance is a lot less too, so there's a lot of things that we get unfairly imbalanced, and we see that with gas prices. I don't know what it is about Alaska, but we get jacked up on everything.
Due to our responses and our visits to the Hill, they are currently calling for an audit of the licensing commission, and they're also going to be pushing through so that the Real Estate Commission can have oversight. The Real Estate Commission had never seen the budget until we demanded it last fall. That was the first time the Real Estate Commission in history had seen the budget. And, well, and we called BS. And so, because of our visits, you know, all we've told them is, okay, granted, we won, but we're not done. It's not fixed, and we're not gonna stop until it's fixed. And so they are all on board in trying to reestablish the whole infrastructure of how that works through their report to, and looking at the fees, both us to other states, as well as within the industries themselves against each other and what the ramifications are.
The last thing that I want to point out is on a national level, the biggest thing that the board that your realtors are fighting is, and you can go to realtor.org to find this out, is really expansions by the EPA and the DEC on private property rights. As you're aware, about 2 years ago, we fought back an act by the EPA to remove the word navigable from the regulation. What that was is right now the EPA regulates all navigable waters. Means if you can run a boat down it because it's for interstate commerce, right? So it can be seen as a transportation way. Well, they tried to remove navigable, all waters, no matter what it was. Well, they fought them back. They didn't take that too kindly, by the way. And recently there's been several lawsuits down in the States where the EPA is attempting to seize private property that is adjacent to navigable waters. So an individual whose land is not wetlands and is not determined to be wetlands but sits next to a lake and begins to erect a house or a couple houses, suddenly the EPA comes in and says, you're adjacent navigable waters, we're suing you and you can't. Restore this house back, restore this land back to its original. And they're like, wait a second, I'm not even wetlands, how can you do that? And they're like, well, so they try to, but here's the thing, EPA has no form of, what is the word I'm looking for, a review policy. So you can't complain and go before a panel and go, hey, I want you to review what you're doing here because I don't think it's fair. This was the EPA's response. If you don't like what we're doing, sue us. There's your review period. Our attorneys versus yours. Well, the National Association of Realtors got involved, and that's where your RPAC dollars and that extra little 25 feet goes in order to put pressure on Congress and our senators to say, no, this is BS. And so through the courts, we're actually able to go back, and recently there was a ruling in which case the Supreme Court kicked it back and said, no. That is not an adequate review policy. The EPA is now being pressured into producing a review area so if you have an issue with wetlands or something, you don't automatically end up having to go to court or deal directly with the Corps of Engineers. There is a review policy that is much less expensive. So that's kind of things we're working on. Understand it's, you know, there's so much legislation that comes down that affects private property rights and home ownership, you guys have no idea. This is stuff we're constantly working on. So, you know, if you guys aren't engaged, I mean that $40 a month that you pay towards your realtor dues in order to keep this stuff from stomping on you, I tell you what, if it wasn't for the few people that are working on, it'd be a crap-avalanche of legislation that would really smother home ownership. I'm kidding you not. Crap-avalanche of legislation. That's my technical term, man. Seriously.
I like
it's
it.
the same story. Every time we go to Juneau, it's the same story. We go to them with these bills and we go, no. And they go, I had no idea that was in there. I appreciate you pushing that out. I only got 90 days to go through 120 bills. You don't think I read this stuff, do you? So that's what we're doing, just to let you know what your Board of Realtors is doing for you, and we appreciate this.
Okay, so what's the triangle that we fundamentally build our model off of from the MREA? What are the 3 L's? I'll give you a clue. It starts with L.
Leads and leverage.
Leads, listings, leverage, right? So this morning, Joe and I were blowing up each other's texts because we got my topic today that I wanted to go over with you guys was listings and the market that we're facing today, and the gift that we have. What an amazing market we have. And then we got a piece of a video, an audio clip that worked perfectly into today's topic. So I want to kind of set the stage a little bit, and then I want you to listen to something. Now, for all of you high Ds, you're going to have to focus. It's a 16-minute clip, and it's audio. There's no pictures, okay? So you're not going to be able to look at. But I got to tell you.
These high eyes.
I know. Squirrel. But I want you to get your head around the fact that this is worth listening to. I made my child listen to it today in the car. He was not happy with me. But let's talk about listings for a second. one of the reasons this was in my head is yesterday I was on a recruiting appointment, and I shared this with Joe. And I want to qualify what I'm about to say by saying this. This is not a negative that I'm casting towards any other brokerage, okay? I just want you to understand this. In this recruiting appointment, this realtor said to me that in their sales meeting last week, the person leading the sales meeting stood up and said, there's only, how many homes are on the market right now, guys?
742.
740, I think he said 742 homes on the market. This market is horrible. And everybody in the room said, literally everybody in the room together said, it's awful. This is the worst market. It's terrible.
This is an awesome market.
That's wrong with you. Do you guys understand the competitive advantage that you have right out of the gate? Imagine you're competing against broker X from brand X, who's walking into a listing appointment thinking, this is a horrible market. Now you walk in thinking, this is a great market. I got a listing in this market. This is awesome. I'm holding the product. What kind of competitive advantage do you have as a realtor?
You win.
Massive. Because so many sellers will tell you, I don't think I'm alone in the room here, will tell you, I hired you because you were passionate about my house. Because you had energy. Because you were excited. People want to know that you're excited about their house. Remember, there's an emotional attachment to what we're selling. So when you come into that appointment going, this is an amazing market, and the other one, has the body language of the defeated person, you're already one step ahead. So we really want to focus on that. We were trying to come up with an analogy this morning.
Yeah, it may fit or it may not. So
I think it
imagine.
does. I think it's a great analogy.
So imagine there's a.
Miley Cyrus. No?
Okay, so there's a Miley Cyrus concert, and
It's the hottest show in town.
and your kids are fired up about going to this Miley Cyrus concert. Well, you get online to find out that it's all sold out. Okay, yet somehow you come across someone that has a ticket and needs to get rid of it. Okay, how important are you as that person holding the ticket when everybody else is looking for it? And how much more are you going to get for that ticket in comparison to all the other ones? Okay, do you understand the analogy? You hold, exactly, say it again?
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand,
Absolutely.
absolutely, okay? Go get the product. Be the one that controls the way this market is going. That's it.
When the supply and demand principle is in effect, and the supply is low and the demand is high, where do you want to be? You want to be the ticket scalper. You want to be the most popular guy in the room. How many of you have buyers right now that can't find a house? Is that anybody? How many of you have buyers that have written offers on property and gotten beat out?
3 last week.
How many just can't find a house to write an offer on? Wouldn't you love to be the one that holds the product? Do you understand what a gift this market is? Amy Mackey-Hornack told me this morning that since January 1st, she's listed 5 properties. Do you know what her average days on market is?
7.
12. 5 homes, 12 days on market average. She's creating some great statistics for her listing presentation, isn't she?
Yeah.
That's an awesome statistic to walk into a listing presentation with. The one who controls the supply controls the market. What I want you to hear is your job right now, more than ever, is to go get listings. Get listings. I got a text from Brittany Radford a couple weeks ago. She said, I'm terrified out of my mind. She said, I'm listening to what you're coaching me on. I'm doing it. I have 28 listings. And I don't have one buyer. She goes, I am scared to death. I said, please don't be scared. You are in the driver's seat. I mean, you're controlling the market. And it's been fun to watch now because not only, okay, so let's say you're the guy trying to buy the ticket to the hot concert that's sold out. And Joe's the ticket scalper holding the tickets. And I go, oh, I can go get a ticket. Not only how much more am I going to pay him for the ticket, what else happens in that analogy?
You don't care what row it's in.
I gotta beat out.
Yeah, man,
That's true.
that's a good point.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can be, you know, the nose.
Emotions take over.
Emotions take over. I've gotta beat out everybody else because I guarantee you I'm not the only one that wants the ticket.
At all.
No leverage. And does he, if he can get a hold of 5 more tickets, what does he have? Leads. People waiting in line to buy the ticket. So when you're holding the listings, not only are you holding the product that will sell, you are also holding the key to future leads. Leads, listings, leverage. They're tied together. You don't have to go prospect for buyers with nothing. No, if you don't have listings, you gotta go prospect for buyers. Don't hear me wrong. But regardless, you have a tool to go get the buyers. Okay, all of that being said, stage is set. I want you to focus and listen to Martin Bouma being interviewed by Gary Keller last week. And he'll give an introduction of himself. You guys know who he is?
No.
Ann Arbor, Michigan, continued to sell, he won't say this part, continued to sell over 40 million through the Michigan real estate market 3 or 4 years ago. We thought we had it bad. Tried Detroit.
How are you this morning?
Gary, really good. How about yourself?
I'm really good, too. Well, thanks for giving your time to visit with me this morning. I know you're busy.
No problem.
Hey, if you would, for those listening to us today, take just a minute and tell us a little about yourself, would you?
Yeah. Martin Bouma here in Ann Arbor. I've been doing this the business for 25 years now. I've got a team of 2 buyer's agents, a rental specialist, and 3 admin. Last year did $45 million worth of sales, 183 sales transactions, and 71 rental transactions. And I've been with Keller Williams for 11 years now.
All right. And personal life?
Personal life, got 2 kids, a partner, and the kids are 9 and 6.
Very good. All right. So, let's zero in on something today, Martin. Let's zero in on just the conversation about listings. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and I can't think of anyone that I've ever met that's more professional and more committed to being a great businessman than you. And so I just wanted to say that publicly, that you rock, dude. I know that you've accepted the challenge of being a listing agent. Can you walk me through, if you wanted to be a big listing agent, if you were talking to me as if I was just getting in the business, well, I was in the business and struggling, but I wanted to list real estate. Can you tell me how I would build a big listing business?
There's a couple of different ways to go about it. Like one of the big steps, I made a decision this year that if I don't list in this low inventory market, I'm going to really hurt. And so I have gone back to targeting neighborhoods. I did all the research to figure out how many commission dollars are in these neighborhoods. Are there any agents dominating that market? What is my chances and what percentage of that market can I grab? And I'm going back now to doing really targeted farming. So that would be one approach. Because
so you're researching. So the first thing you're telling me is go research. Go get into the statistics. And what am I looking for, Martin, when I go into those statistics?
I want to make sure that, like, I'm not going into a neighborhood where there are only 5 sales, right? I wanted to make sure that I was in a neighborhood where there were at least, let's say, 25, 30 transactions going on. I don't want to go after a market where there's no movement. I also, myself, what I've done this year, I've targeted a higher price point. My average sale price is $250, and I'm targeting neighborhoods right now that are $400 to $650. So I picked that, and then I went in there and I analyzed how many commission dollars were on it. Like one neighborhood, there were $1.2 million worth of commissions last year were earned. And there was no particular agent who dominated that market, and I thought this is a great market to go after. And what I'm mailing out is basically their market reports. They're 4-page brochures, and it's got everything. It's got trends of what's happening in those neighborhoods. I write up about certain sales that have happened. It's so different, all the actors, all the souls, the things that people will hang on to. And what happens is you start creating the perception that you know what you're talking about, that you're the expert in that neighborhood. Because my goal is to get, well, for me, my goal is to get to these people before they contact anyone else. And, you know, I would, with that type of marketing and doing it consistently, there's a pretty good chance you're gonna at least get a phone call.
So what does that marketing look like, and how often do you do it?
I'm doing it right now, I'm doing it about every other month, and it's a 4-page color high, it's a real classy professional, it looks like a magazine really. And, you know, it's got, like I said, all the statistics about the neighborhood. I did trending for the last 5 years as far as average price per square foot, sale prices, inventory, all the actives, all the souls, and then to talk a little bit about what our team does. So I'm selling our team on the back page. But most of it's just a lot of market information that people are interested in receiving.
So is that it? I can target a neighborhood, do the stats, figure out exactly what neighborhood I should be in, target price point, and send something out every 2 months?
I have so much name recognition. If I was brand new,
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. If I was brand new, I would probably do it once a month. You know, just really kick it in. I have so much name recognition. I think that if I did it every month, I'd be wasting money.
Okay. Well, how do you build up name recognition? I mean, you're targeted in a neighborhood. How do you get to a point where you're Martin and you go, I have name recognition?
Well, first of all, I've been doing this a long time.
I know, but I understand. So time is an issue. Please understand it takes time. But how do you do it?
You know what? One thing that I've always done, I just do a whole bunch of things consistently. You know, like people always ask me, like, Mark, what's the magic pill or whatever? But there really isn't one. I mean, I make my 10 prospecting phone calls every day. I send out probably 5 to 10 handwritten notes every single day.
What?
I contact my sellers on a very regular basis. I just do all these little touches on a very regular basis.
Y'all should write that
You know,
down.
on birthdays, I send handwritten notes, you know, with those certificates to the local ice cream place. On anniversary dates, I send everybody a CMA of their house. So just constantly doing that type of thing.
I think you actually did say the magic pill. It's consistency.
Consistency.
So I think that is the magic pill. I mean, that's to me, what I've noticed about you personally is that you work hard to be consistent. Every time that we visit or I'm given a glimpse into your business, the thing that I noticed is you're consistent. You treat it like a business, and you show up with a list of things that have to be done in order to be successful, and you're not going, should I or should not.
Right. And it also keeps me level. Like a lot of times you have bad days or bad week, and you know, a lot of people freak out and panic. Whereas with me, I just say, you know what, as long as I do the things I have to do every single day, everything's going to be okay. And so it keeps me focused, and it prevents me from panicking. Because I just know if I just do these things consistently, eventually it's all going to come out in the wash.
So what do you think the big mistakes that people make are when they go out to be a listing agent? What have you observed? Not to tattletale on people, but what have you observed in terms of the mistakes that people might make?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of one mistake you'll see is a lot of people, for instance, they'll do the tough thing. They'll call the expires. They'll call this the FISBO. They'll do all these kind of things, but then they don't follow up properly. One of the things I do, I think I shared this with you at the conference, I have a hot sheet. And I literally look at that hot sheet every morning, every single night. Every single listing, lead, or possibility goes onto that sheet. And that is what I keep in front of me. And I have even on that sheet the last contact date, and I'll look at it and say, you know what, I haven't talked to that person. It's been like 5 days. I better get on the phone. Because you can have every single software program, whatever you want, to try to stay on top of things, but unless you have that hot sheet in front of you, and what it's got the address of the property, the price point, the name of the client, the phone number, where they came from, the last contact date, and then the comment section. So nothing falls through the cracks with me, because to me, that's my business. That, in my opinion, the listings are the fuel for my business. So that's the one mistake. I think people do the hard things, and they don't do the follow-up as religiously as they should. Because the bottom line is, if I'm calling them every 2 or 3 days and someone else is calling them once a week, or sometimes once a month, I'm getting the listing.